This is the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast, episode 338.
I program my own computer.
We have a server crash, 404 error, page not found, links aren't working, system is crashing, system is crashing, system is crashing.
Your old HTML website, barely alive. We have the technology. We have WordPress. A new website, better than it was before. Better, stronger, faster. We have the technology.
Why, hello there, everybody. This is Adam Silver, the host of the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. All right, first and foremost, upcoming events. We have one to talk about this week. There is a WordCamp next week. It's Friday, August 21st. It is WordCamp Minneapolis and St. Paul. And like I said, it's a Friday event. It starts at 8:45. Is that right? Yeah, 8:45 a.m. Central and wraps up at 4 p.m. on the same day. Check that out over on the WordCamp schedule page. So there's that. That is it for the events coming up. Moving on to segment one in the news. One thing to talk about here, WordPress 5.5 did get announced and released on schedule. Lots of new features. And I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Dustin Hartzler over at Your Website Engineer. He did a really nice recap and a review on a whole bunch of the feature set. Not every little thing, but a chunk of it. Check out that. I'll put a link in the show notes for that as well. I have not yet really dove in on the front end or the back end really to check out all the new features and whatnot, but I've seen a few things, and I just want to mention this. I did have a few issues with it on 3 sites so far because it auto-updated on a whole bunch of my dev servers auto-updated, and some other places did as well. So with that in mind, before you do the update, make a backup and upgrade carefully. Test things, right? Of course. The updates I had were minor, a theme issue here, jQuery issue there, and then of course the server on one of the sites made a mistake by adding the index.html file, and then it got stopped there. So I had a hello world on the homepage because it was loading before index.php. Anyway, they're minor. They were fixable, but be forewarned that 5.5 has some quirks in it. So just be careful to make sure you have a backup of your site before you do the update, etc. And that is it in this week's news. Moving on to the meat and potatoes of this week's episode. But before that, I just want to say thank you to this week's sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Facet WP. And so if you're looking for a way to add faceted search to your e-commerce store, let's say a recipe page or any other type of listing, I would definitely recommend this plugin. It has smart filtering, and with that, users can find what they're looking for way faster, which in turn makes the sale that much easier. And if you're like me, you're turned away from a purchase if it takes just too long to find what you're looking for. If you want to buy something, you want to buy it right now, right? We want the instant gratification, and if you got to look too much, you're going to just walk away. So Facet WP solves that problem. It works with most themes, uses your site's existing post types, custom fields, taxonomies, and automatically works for your existing archive pages as well. So I'm using it actually over at backupspeaker.com, and I couldn't be more pleased with the results. So thanks to Facet WP for sponsoring this week's episode. Check them out over at facetwp.com. All right, cool. Now, moving on to segment 2, the meat potatoes. This week, I am talking about another alternative to WordPress, and we are talking about Joomla. Yes, you heard that correct. Now, for those who don't know, I actually used to use Joomla circa 2008. I was working for a company part-time. I'll give you a little backstory here. And they wanted an intranet. I was doing some systems admin work. It's a long story, but they also wanted an intranet. And someone suggested Joomla. So I tried it out, and about 12 days into figuring things out, I was then told to stop working on the project. Now, keep in mind, those first 12 days were kind of interesting. I thought this was kind of a neat little thing. This package, this service was interesting how it was going to work. But then, like I said, 12 days in, I was told stop working on the project and told not to do anything else at all. And then 4 days later, the company shut down. Apparently, they lost a big deal. There was no more financing. There was no more money. We all lost our jobs. Kind of weird. A year later, I moved back from Colorado to California, where I took on a different job. And 9 months after that job came to a screeching halt with layoffs. And 2-3 months later, I found WordPress. So this is 2009, and I needed to reboot my photography business. So that's where the pre-story of my overall early experience with Joomla comes in. I worked on it for about 2 weeks total, seriously, and it's how I came to find WordPress. And I built a site for my photography business, etc. And the rest of that is history. That said, I wanted to revisit the platform now as I'm doing this series of alternatives to WordPress and other CMSs and see how it worked and if I remembered anything about it. And so I checked it out. So initially, I decided to run this locally via desktop server. And I installed a blank installation of of a what's it called, an instance, I guess, to run it. I then downloaded Joomla. I uncompressed the zip. I copied that into the directory. This is all kind of per instructions that I was shown on the website for Joomla. I moved that into the browser. And I went to the browser in Chrome. I navigated the directory plus index.php, and I was redirected to the installation screen. From there, there's a whole bunch of onboarding questions, username, password, and then I got stuck. I couldn't get the correct info for the database, even though it said it was created, but it wasn't. And I didn't want to spend too much time on just trying to figure that out locally. So I'm like, you know what? Let me go over to SiteGround. I have a staging server there, and I set up a dev server there. So I did that. I created a subdomain, easy enough. I clicked the easy install for Joomla, also simple. Asked a series of questions like that you're asked in Softaculous, the installer for WordPress, same kind of thing. Then you're given two links, one for the front end and one for the back end. I clicked the link to visit the site, and it didn't work. I'm like, what is going on with this? My luck is not doing well here. And it was interesting. And then after a few minutes, I realized that the subdomain I had created on in the root directory had no DNS forwarding from hover.com. It's kind of funny. So I fixed that. About an hour later, it propagated, and the site was there. So now I'm finally at the site, and I'm looking at things, and the site is literally 10 years old. It looks like an old 2010 theme, and that wasn't ideal. On the top was navigation, home, about, news, and contact. On the right side, it says waiting for side module, kind of like a widget area, and below that is a login form. So the first post on the front end indicated some info starting out. It says literally, quote, every Joomla website has two parts, the site, which is your site visitor see, and the administrator, which is where you will do all the site management. So I continued to poke around, and I wanted to create an article. I figured, okay, first and foremost, let's see, can I create like a blog post? So I did that. I hit publish. I hit submit, I suppose. And I couldn't find where it went. To this day, I don't know where it is on the front end. It's not live. I don't see it anywhere. So then I decided to log into the back end, and I can see a ton of information there. This is what Joomla calls the control panel. It shows me the latest actions of the site, logins, changes to users, recently added articles. My article is there, just it was like Lorem Ipsum with Bacon. Bacon Ipsum is what I used, but I'm not sure where to see it on the front end. And on the left side of the screen of this admin panel is the content. Under the content, you have new articles, categories, and media. You have structure with media and modules, users with no urgent requests. I don't know what that actually means. Configuration was there for global templates and languages, and then extensions you can install, and then maintenance. So I continued to poke around best I could. I wanted to try to create that theme, that layout, like I've been trying to do for my friends, the demo I'm trying to do for like a real estate agent's brochure site. And I couldn't figure out how to do that. I mean, I didn't see any repo or any theme area where we have like WordPress has the repo for themes and plugins. Nothing there automatically noticeable or easily defined. I just wasn't inspired. And I did create a new user. I was curious to see how this might be. So I added my user, Sally, and she works with me as well. She's my project manager and one of my developers. And she logged in, and she didn't find the site whatsoever to be intuitive at all either. So after a few more hours, I decided I was done. I made no progress on trying to create that site for my buddy, whereas other sites and services I did. It was much easier. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible, and I know there's a big Joomla community out there, and there are Joomla themes over on Theme Forest, but from the perspective of trying to take this on as somebody new, without the experience that we have, I mean, sure, I could spend another day or 2 or 3, and I could probably figure this all out. But there are so many other platforms out there that I think are stronger and easier, including Wix and Weebly and Squarespace. I can't really recommend Joomla to someone starting out. I just don't think it's intuitive in any capacity to really get going. So, I mean, I actually just recommended Squarespace to somebody about 2 weeks ago, and that was just fine, and it worked out for them. It's fine, makes sense that way. So, long story short, I'm not a big fan of Joomla. I mean, I did the 12 to 15 days, 10 years ago, 2008, actually a little bit longer, 12 years ago, and I moved on, and I'm never going to look back to that again. So when I jokingly say I dated for 2 weeks, that's about right. So there you have it. If you have a different experience with Joomla and you want to share, I would love to hear about it. I really would. Or if there's a easy way to find templates versus themes, I think they call it templates, let me know. The couple that were built in, so what I downloaded, were really, really basic, and I just wasn't inspired. And I don't see how you can build them out like we can with page builders, with even Gutenberg. I mean, come on. Yeah, I think Joomla is just, it's behind the times, in my opinion. Again, there's no perfect answer here, just I'm not going to be using it anytime in the near future. All right. So moving on to segment 3, tip and tool of the week. This one is a plugin called WP Downgrade. This is the plugin I used to fix the problem I had with upgrading 5.5 on one of the sites I got updated. It helped. You can then literally pick the version of WordPress you want to go back to. It sets the flag in the database to say, hey, look, the most recent version is this. Do you want to install it? You say yes. Pretty cool. So it's WP Downgrade. It's in the repo. It's free. It's written by Rice Tiger, Reisetiger, Rice Tiger. I'm not sure how to pronounce that exactly, but check it out. Completely free, worked really well. I highly recommend it. So there you go. Before I wrap up, I do want to say this. Thanks to all the people who are happy for me to take time off. I took time off 2 weeks ago, and when I took the staycation, and I talked about that last week. But I also got to go 3 more days this past week. I went on part B of my sabbatical week. Took 3 days away from home. I went solo. Went down to the coast here in North Carolina. I did a bunch of reading, a bunch of thinking, and a bunch of napping, and it was awesome. And I just want to say thank you to my team as well, because I really couldn't have done that had I not had them in place, had them on my side to let me to take some time away. So it was very cool. So there you have it. All right, I'm going to wrap it up now. If you have any questions, go ahead and send it in via email, adam@kitchensinkwp.com, or use the speak pipe function on the website. If you want to support the show, you can become a Patreon over at kitchensinkwp.com/Patreon. You can sponsor the show like Facet WP did. Thanks again to them. There's a form on the website. And hey, you know what? If you wouldn't mind, how about leaving me a review over on iTunes? Let's spread the word about Kitchen Sink WP. Let's get some more people listening to the show. Thanks so much for listening. See you next week. Now go out, do some awesome things with WordPress. Thanks. Bye-bye. And one last thing, P.S. The day of this recording, just want to wish my dog happy 6th birthday. Happy birthday, Delvis.